Hey guys, Shodai Erisu finally back with Season 2, and welcome to the first episode of the new series. The show is still going to be called Weekly Kaiju Reviews, but it's going to be Kaiju, Tokusatsu heroes, and Super Sentai type figures. And today we have a sort of Sentai slash Tokusatsu hero figure, and that is Metalder. This is the 15-inch Metalder by Kenner. And, well, first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about this figure, the history of this figure. I actually had this figure when I was really young, but at the time I didn't know it as Metalder. The Metalder show had scenes and stuff taken out of it and were reused in an American show called VR Troopers, which was played over here in the UK, and I used to watch VR Troopers and I loved VR Troopers. Now this figure was produced by Kenner, so I am assuming that this is supposed to be the VR Troopers version of the character, but visually they are the same. As a kid I knew this character as Ryan Steele. But after reaching high school and learning a bit more about how American shows often reuse Super Sentai clips, I learned that his name was Metalder and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't actually seen this figure in a long time. It was put away in storage and that. And recently, during the decorating that's been going on in my house, we've had to clear a lot of space in the garage, and I found this guy along with some old childhood stuff. And yeah, so I wanted to talk about him today. So we're going to jump straight into Sculpt and begin looking at Metalder. The sculpt of Metalder is really nice. The face of this figure, as you can see here, is really nicely sculpted. You've got the metal pieces of his face here, and the different segments are really nicely sculpted. The red side's nice and smooth with the sort of silver grating effect. The blue side's got all the sort of internal mechanics. And it's a really nice looking head sculpt on this figure actually. The eyes are very Ultraman-like, and yeah, he's just got a really good thing going for him in the head sculpt. If we go on the body, the same sort of theme continues with the blue and red. The red side being smooth and you know, just a lot sort of more new looking, whereas the blue side is meant to be sort of more mechanical. He's got a really nice sculpting here. You can see all the detailing there. We turn him around, look at the back. He's got the sort of vents on the back. Nice detailing there. The arms are quite similar in the upper body part. Both got these. But this arm has the plasma blade weapon here. And the rest of the hand's quite nicely sculpted, as is this sculpt on the hand here. Just have a quick look at the legs. Detailing's really nice on this side. And again, a lot more simple, but really nice on that side too. And the legs are basically identical, with a little bit of different sort of thing here, but the front of the legs and the feet are pretty much identical. So sculpt-wise, this figure is really nice. I think, you know, obviously with it being quite a large figure, they've had a lot of room to work with it, and I think they've done it really well. So yeah, for sculpt, this is definitely a good sculpt. Now for paint job, obviously there's only sort of three primary colours here. Obviously you've got the silver and the sort of red and blue sides. Now the red and blue paints are slightly different. The blue paint has a sort of matte finish to it, whereas the red paint has a more vinyl feel to it. And the silver is kind of an in-between sort of shiny and matte type finish. But they're all really different textures and they feel really great. They all add a bit of different sort of kinetic element to the figure, which is really nice. The paint detailing is good. There's not as much paint detailing on the blue mechanical parts. You see all these little chip pieces and stuff. There should be more shading and a bit more paint up here on these pieces on the head. But overall, the silver and red is incredibly accurate and really nicely done. There's no bleed. There's no you know, parts that should be painted that aren't, etc. So, other than the blue pieces, to be honest. So yeah, for paint, again, pretty damn good. The paint is not quite as good as the sculpt because of the missing out some of the detailing on the blue mechanical parts. But no, otherwise the paint's pretty good and it doesn't hurt the figure at all really. So it gets a good thumbs up for paint there. Metalder here has 4 points of articulation, 360 degrees in each arm, a 360 degree joint in his head. And if he raises his arms up, 360 degree joint in the waist. Now for the most part the articulation isn't too stiff, it's not too loose. The head is probably the stiffest joint, But again, it's not really that stiff at all. It's just because of the type of rubber, it makes a little bit of a creaking sound as it rotates, but it's not really stiff at all. So articulation-wise, nice and functional, and yeah, I'm happy with the articulation. So in terms of pricing, I've had this figure since I was a kid, so I don't know how much my family paid for this exact one, but I have seen them knocking around on eBay for about 15 quid out of the box to about £32 in the box. I would say maybe between 15 and 20 quid is reasonable. I think the 30 quid and higher mark is a little bit much for it, because at the end of the day, yes, it is a big figure and yes, it is nicely made, but I don't think size should dictate price. So I think if you can get it between 15 and 25 quid, I would recommend getting that. But there are definitely some knocking around on eBay for the 15 quid mark, which again, I think is incredibly reasonable. So with a little bit of a camera angle change here, we're going to look at some scaling. This figure is 15 inches and he's massive. So for scaling, we're going to use the previously biggest figure we've looked at on the show, which is the Bandai Plasmawalk DX Gamera. And if you put them side by side here, you can see how big Metalder is. This Gamera stands around 10, possibly 11 inches. And you can just see how much bigger Metalder is. I would say, I mean, it's a nice figure, and it's, I like big figures like this. But there's not a lot that he's going to fit in with, apart from some of the 15-inch Banpresto Ultraman figures and the 15-inch Banpresto sort of Kamen Rider figures he'd fit in quite well with. But no, otherwise he's not going to be in scale with anything. But again, if scaling doesn't bother you, then okay, fair enough. But yeah, I like the size of it. In all fairness, he sits on top of a wardrobe at the moment, and he looks really good up there. So yeah, I'm happy with the scale. So what do I make of Metalder overall? Well, there's a level of nostalgia here, in a similar way that there's a level of nostalgia for the Imperial Godzilla. But this figure is far above and beyond the Imperial Godzilla, so it's not just nostalgia that makes this figure great. It's incredibly well sculpted, the paint's really great, the articulation's good, and yeah, it is just a really big part of my childhood, this figure, so it's really great to finally have him back. I thought we'd got rid of him. But I'm glad we haven't. So yeah, that's pretty much my final thoughts on Metalder. Thanks for the long wait, guys. I know it's been a long time since episode 19. There's just been a lot going on, as I mentioned in the update video. I'm going to be trying to do one of these videos weekly initially, but depending, it might end up having to be bi-weekly, just because, time constraints and that. But at least for the next fortnight, there'll be a review a week, and next week I think we'll have a look at a recent pickup of mine, which was another quite large figure. So yeah, I look forward to doing that. Sorry again for the long wait, and I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I will see you in episode 21.